property acquisition, particularly for projects. We'll talk in general and then get into some examples. So tonight, just wanted to talk about first an overview of the process. How do we get to property acquisition on a project? Talk a little bit about the process for eminent domain. Talk about some challenges that we see with property acquisition, and then also some real examples that we're seeing, and then leave some time for discussion at the end. So just have a few slides to go over. So in the process, how do we get to the point of property acquisition on a project? Well, first off, a project gets funded through the CIP or through an allocation through the town board. Once the funds are there, then we get started. We'll go out and get a survey of the area by a licensed surveyor, and then we'll work to develop construction plans. That will define what property is impacted and what property is needed for the project. Once that is determined, then we'll go through the next two steps kind of at the same time. That's come to the board to ask permission to be able to start the property acquisition process on those individual and particular parcels needed for the project. And then also we'll create some legal descriptions and exhibits to be able to determine that exact, down to the square foot of how much we need from each parcel. Once that is complete, then we reach out to those property owners to try to work to settle those acquisitions, again, based on those exhibits and legal descriptions that were created. And that's based on fair market values that are determined by somebody who's independent from the town. That's an appraiser or licensed acquisition agent. And then if that's unsuccessful, then the town can use eminent domain to be able to acquire that property. So in general, eminent domain, that's something that's granted by Chapter 40A, of the state statutes. In that process, each owner must be provided with a 30-day notice of action via certified mail before the condemnation complaint can be filed. So a different way of thinking of that is we tried the property acquisition, tried to negotiate with those owners, or if they've been unresponsive, then that 30-day notice is sent out with the help of the attorney. Now, during that 30-day period, can the town still negotiate with that property owner? Yes. There's nothing limiting that window to negotiate during that time to try to get it settled. After that 30-day period, the town can file the condemnation complaint with a declaration of taking, deposit of just compensation that goes along with it, and a memorandum of action. And then the owners are served with a copy of the complaint and a 120-day summons. Once that is filed, then the town has access to that property and can use it as needed. The just compensation is based on a real appraisal. Again, a separate appraiser makes that fair market determination. They get paid for the appraisal the same, regardless of value, so they don't have any interest in making it except what it needs to be. What are some challenges to acquisition? There's 6 things up here, but really they relate to time and money, okay? There could be, with a particular piece of property, multiple owners. Could be one owner, could be 10 owners. Each property is different, and those owners could be individuals. They could be companies. These can create challenges just with the amount of time needed to be able to find those owners and then negotiate with them. Owners could be out of the state. Out of state, there may be multiple owners. They may live in different parts of the country, or they may be out of the country altogether. They could be out of the country on pleasure, maybe for vacation, or they could be out of the country on business. It's hard to know if they don't respond. Something else that we can run into is the health. That may be a temporary health condition. Maybe they needed surgery and they're unavailable for a couple of weeks. It could be something longer that they are not available. Also, if that condition may be something with cognitive, then are you even able to be able to negotiate with those property owners, or do you have to go through someone with power of attorney? Another challenge is, or can be a challenge, is homeowners associations. Some homeowners associations may be set up where their board of directors can make decisions on property acquisition. Sometimes it's all of the property owners in there have to sign off, or a certain portion of those, to be able to acquire that property. And all four of those things and combinations thereof relate to the time it takes to get to the acquisition and also the cost to the town to be able to do that. So what are some examples? And this is just a few. Sorry?
Can I ask a quick question? This might be a good time to, the appeal that the property owner can do they have an appeals process? I don't, let's say that I want to appeal this condemnation. When does that come into the flow of things?
Defer to the attorney.
It's not necessarily an appeal process. So when they're provided the complaint, they're given 120 days to file an answer to the allegations that are included in the complaint. And so it depends on what they're questioning. It could be the just compensation itself, or it could be other procedural issues that they may say were not carried out properly. And so typically whatever they raise in their answer, that would be something that would move forward into the trial phase. And so there would be an actual jury trial in most instances unless there is a settled mediation.
You're welcome. And some of these questions can get complicated, and so please ask. So getting to just a few examples, and these are just a few, and you can imagine as you go through property acquisition, you run into all kinds of unknown scenarios as you're going through those. But I mentioned before about HOAs. Sometimes HOA covenants, in their CCRs require that 2/3 of the neighborhood owners, and I say neighborhood owners, that's every single parcel in the neighborhood, have to sign off on a property transfer. Maybe not an easement, but a right-of-way acquisition. Example of that, which will be coming up, is the Gilead Road West project. We have to be required